Hello. Look at that. I got some damn spaghetti on my white shirt. That's what the thing I don't like about white. It's so fucking, it gets dirty too easy. Ah, well. What are you gonna do? Anyway, I guess just some updates and house cleaning for my big subscriber base I got here. So we'll start off with the most important thing, is about the storyboard that I've been working on and I've taken a break from. I'm just questioning why, I just have a hard time telling this story. It's kind of a psychological mindfuck for me to tell the story, and so then I start to wonder, well, why even tell it, So really, the main reason that I'm telling it is for me, I guess. And so my vision for telling this story is to make it as coherent as possible, because it's a very confusing story, and also because there's so many details. That's why I'm calling it the storyboard. I talked about this, but I don't know if I posted a video on it. Like, if you've ever seen a storyboard before, it's not entertaining. There is nothing really, it's just this big, massive, 10-foot tall by 20-foot wide board with a bunch of Post-it stickers and red yarn and pins attaching strings of red yarn and photocopies and pictures and just Post-it notes and documents and it's a storyboard. But so that's why I'm calling this a storyboard. And I really don't think that a person would really have an interest in looking at a storyboard and trying to understand it. Like, a storyboard is more to piece the puzzle together and figure out how to make it, make sense. And so if people are having if anybody's having an expectation that it's going to be some exciting kind of thing, it's really not. It's really more for like a person who has the patience to, look at a storyboard and try to, it'd be like, imagine like if me and the viewer are investigators and we have this case, and whether we want to do this case or not, we have this case before us that we have to do. And so we're trying to piece it together, and we're trying to piece it all together. Imagine the viewer, being an investigator with me, and we're like colleagues, and we're going over the storyboard together. It's not really going to be like some, exciting, fun thing. It's an investigation, and investigations aren't like in the movies where it's like James Bond kind of, oh, you're fucking doing backflips and you got your little gadgets and you're outsmarting the bad guys or anything. It's a storyboard. That's why I'm calling it a storyboard. So, and then also storyboards take time. It's not just like, okay, now let's go on to this. And so I understand, like, if there is a viewer that's wants to follow the storyboard, I understand the kind of like, well, let's get on with the story. Are you going to tell the story? And I understand that. I trust me, because I I have tried to tell this story many fucking times. And I've always done it like that, where it's like, come on, I'm doing the same thing as you. I'm like, come on, we got to get the story out. Come on, come on. And every time I do that, it never works. I feel the same as any viewer that has decided they want to try to follow the storyboard, and they starting to feel impatient. Like, come on, are you going to tell this fucking story or what? Like, I feel the same way. And because this happened 2 years ago, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell it since it happened. And I do that to myself, where I'm like, dude, I gotta fucking tell this. I gotta tell this. And so then I'll push it. I'll force it. I'll force telling the story, and it never works. And nobody ever understands it. Nobody does. That's why I gave up. I'm like, fuck it. But then I can't give up. I can't. And so this is a different approach. The storyboard approach is where I'm not going to rush myself. I'm not going to, as much as I might get pressured by myself or anyone else, to where it's like, come on, keep telling. I want to hear more of the story. Come on, what's going on? I have to be careful. Because I don't want to fuck it up again. I've tried like fucking, I don't know how many times, at least 5 times or more, to try to do a video vlogging of this story. And I've spent all this time and stuff trying to put the story together in a video vlog format, and I can't do it. And that means I have to change my approach. And part of my approach has always been, to appease the viewer. Like, okay, I have to get this out to where the viewer will listen to me, and it'll be interesting, and they won't get bored, and blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that that's not feasible. I can't do that. And there's a way to do that, and I want to do that, but it's like first things first. If I want to do something like that, I have to start with a storyboard, and storyboards are boring. So, but if I can flesh out a fucking big storyboard and start connecting all this shit and figuring, out and to kind of like, that's why people do storyboards, especially like film directors. That's why they have these massive storyboards. If it were that easy, they'd just plaster the storyboard and then point the camera at the storyboard and just have the camera sit at the storyboard for 1 hour and let the audience just sit and sift through all the shit and figure it out themselves. But that's not the way it works. They do the storyboard so they can figure out, how do I present this story to an audience where it's cohesive, it makes sense, where it won't confuse them, especially if a story is confusing. You don't think real life stories are confusing? Again, that's why I reference like police interviews and police interrogations, and all the hours and hours that they spend interviewing and interrogating, and like courtroom scenarios, the hours and hours of evidence that the jury needs to sift through, and the judge needs to sift through, and the lawyers have to go back and forth on. Like, this is like hours and hours. Why do you think that they spend hours and hours and hours doing all this? Or even a film director spends hours and hours and hours. And like, how long does it take a director to put out a film, even a documentary film, to explain some story? You take some true story that happened, like anything, or allegedly true story, like, I don't know, whatever. I mean, these things are not easy to do, and I feel the same way as you. I want to just like get this out, but I've tried many times, and it's very difficult. It's easy to say that. It's easy to like just say to somebody who's running a channel, it's like, come on, man, aren't you going to finish telling this story? And I'm not saying this to like, I'm not saying this to ridicule or cast shade on anybody. I'm just saying, like, from my point of view, it's easy for a passive viewer of my channel to, like, tell me, like, come on, dude, you started that storyboard, like, what the fuck, are you gonna finish it or what? It's easy to say that to somebody, but that's totally different than being the creator that has to figure out, how do I tell this story? That'd be like me going to some director and saying, "Come on, bro, it's already been 6 months and you still haven't gotten the film done yet. What the fuck? Like, have I ever made a film before? No, you know. Well, what do I know about making a film? But I'm gonna go harass or fucking like, you know. Again, I'm not saying this to cast a shadow on or ridicule any viewer that's watching, but also I need to make a disclaimers like this. Like, I'm not going to be blowing anybody's mind with this storyboard per se. Only if somebody really wants to be patient and really look at this story, you know, really look at it, you know. And just the same as like that's why I call it the storyboard, because you know, who's going to have the patience to look at a storyboard or follow a director and follow the director's storyboard and all the post-it notes and all the fucking photographs and the red yarn with the pins and the you know, who's going to follow that? You know, this is the boring shit. This isn't the fun part where it's like, listen to this story, you know, stories, you know what I'm trying to say, and I'm probably, you know, whatever, but so like I'm just doing some house cleaning and updates on my channel. I trust me, bro, I feel the same. I want to get this story out, and you know, if you had been around my channel, my previous channel, like, dude, and my subscribers that were diehards, you know, they watched me fucking just like, just fucking like, you know, they watched me go through all this frustration about trying to tell this story and trying to figure out how to tell it and everything else. And also part of the point is, see, this is what makes it even more impossible as far as telling this story. One of the reasons I would like to tell this story, I mean, it would be even better if someone would follow me through the storyboard, because then I have a second pair of eyes. I have other people to bounce this shit off of where they might see something that I'm not seeing. Or I might have tunnel vision and they're seeing that I have tunnel vision and they can kind of expand my you know, my perspective and stuff. Like, two sets of eyes is better than one. If I had people, but that's an unreasonable expectation to put on a subscriber or a viewer, because, you know, it would be like me volunteering my time freely to a movie director, and I just sit and I follow that movie director while they flesh out their storyboard, and I'm just for free. I'm just providing my free, you know, input, and I'm just going to hang out for hours and hours for free while they flesh out this storyboard. Like, you know, that's an unreasonable expectation to put on the viewer, but nonetheless, I want to do it anyways. And so it's not going to necessarily really attract viewers, because it'd be very few people that would be interested in following a storyboard. I mean, ideally, I would love that. I really would. But as far as is that happening, I just don't see that. And so, because, you know, as I'm processing all this, I lose momentum, because I'm doing this by myself. I'm doing this storyboard by myself, and it's a massive storyboard. It's the fucking 10-foot tall by 20-foot wide storyboard with post-it notes, and it's a lot of sifting through boring details and you know, piecing together this big puzzle and stuff, and I just have to do it alone, because, you know, but ideally, yeah, having other people involved, that's what I've always wanted since this event took place. I was desperately scrambling, like, will somebody fucking help me, you know? Why haven't I was wishing that the police would interview me. But see, the reason the police didn't interview me is because the police swept the whole fucking thing under the rug, dude. They had no interest in solving Todd Minshall's death. I mean, just that alone is insane. Would you not agree that that is insane, that the police had no interest in solving his murder? The only interest they had was sweeping it under the rug. Because if they had if there was a real investigation going on, I would have been in the interrogation room. They would have been interrogating me and interviewing me. And then you might say, well, why didn't you go to the cops? Dude, my friend who does international cybersecurity for the FBI told me the only advice he could give me is do not talk to the cops, which is, I already knew that pretty much before he told me. But when he told me, all it did was more, and you might think, why? Dude, you don't know why I wouldn't go, because dude, if the cops need a fall guy, and I'm going in there like, oh, can I please talk to you and just tell you everything? And they don't have any interest in, and especially if they know who the murderer is, and they're trying to fucking run cover for the murderer, then they're going to use all that information against me to try to figure out how to pin it on me. That's what, there's all these reasons why you don't talk to the cops, you know? So this is like an extremely complex story. And there's nothing I can do. If I could, I would just tell it all like boom. But again, that's why I call it a storyboard. It's just like if a director of a documentary could just make a documentary in 1 week and have it to where it's engaging for people to watch, then they do it. Like everybody be doing it, you know? It's not easy, man. And I lose momentum, you know? Like I had momentum during the actual event, but then when I start in the pre-event, it's not like fires and murders and death threats and cover-ups and scandal. I mean, it is, but it's not like, see, the event was when it all exploded, where the whole bomb went off and everything was like happening, and it was happening all so fast I couldn't even process it as fast as it was happening. But then when I go to the pre-event, it's like a grueling, slow kind of thing, and so when I start going to the pre-event, I start thinking like, I start losing momentum because, you know, viewers it's not going to really capture the audience's intrigue as much unless someone is truly interested in this story. And the reason I want to tell this story is because I believe people should be interested in this story. It is a real story about a murder, a cover-up of the murder, that I got dragged into the investigation and got death threats put out on me, and it was all the main suspects were self-proclaimed witches, not Wiccans, but actual black magic witches that were self-proclaimed Satanists and self-proclaimed Illuminati, and it was a real life thing that happened to me, and so to me the story is important. But again, if it was just as simple as me putting up a storyboard with all the post-it notes and everything, and then just setting the camera there and have everybody just look at the storyboard, like nobody's gonna give a shit, you know. And to flesh out a storyboard takes a lot of time. So I guess ideally what I'd like to do is do the storyboard, and so you have the pre-event, the event, and then the post-event, and then the final conclusion, I guess. And then take all of that, and that would probably end up being like, I don't know, looks like, let's see, 2, 4, maybe 8 hours, 7 hours, and take all that 7 hours and condense it down to like a 2-hour presentation, just hitting on all the main points and being efficient. But that's what a storyboard is for, is to get it to where, okay, now to figure out how to turn it into something that people can watch, and without having to sit for 10 hours or something. But like I said, ideally I would love to have as many people as possible help me with the storyboard, so I've got more eyes than mine, because we all have these problems. We get tunnel vision, we get distracted, we focus too much on one thing, we get all this stuff or whatever. And to have more than one person, I mean, that's what you want. If you're getting if you're getting sucked into some weird thing where there's some satanic cult that murdered somebody and is trying to frame you for the murder, and your girlfriend is part of that cult, and you didn't, for 3 years you lived with her, you never knew she was a fucking part of a satanic cult because she hid it from you, and then they're putting out death threats on you and making loose attempts on your life, and then you know, and they're burning your fucking house down, and all this happens in two weeks and shit, and you have this happen to you, you're gonna want people to help you try to figure this out and even expose it. And if you end up in a situation like that personally yourself, good luck. Nobody will believe you. Everybody will think you're crazy. And everybody will tell you, you know, you just need to drink some chamomile tea and read some Hallmark card, you know, meditations, and you need to get over this girl. They're gonna misinterpret everything. They're not gonna understand any of it because it involves all the like high level fucking intrigue. I mean, like at the law enforcement level, law enforcement is trying to cover it up. Even and the government, the local government is participating in covering it up. Like all this stuff, nobody, and you're the only one that saw it, and you're alone. And then you think it would be easy to get anybody to believe you? It's like, it reminds me of on Game of Thrones when Snow first saw a White Walker, and then he's trying to tell people, and nobody believes him. Anybody that said in Game of Thrones, when people would see a White Walker and they try to tell everybody, they just get laughed out of the fucking. They just get, fuck, this guy's a stupid idiot. He's claiming he saw a White Walker. Ha ha ha. Nobody believes him. And Snow was trying to tell him, and nobody believed him, to the point where Snow had to say, look, you've known me for how many years, right? And they're like, yeah. And Snow's like, well, have you ever known me to be a madman? No. Have you ever known me to be a fucking liar? No. Well, I'm telling you, I've seen the White Walkers, and they're fucking real, and they're fucking coming. You know? Nobody believes the person who saw the White Walkers. My story is a White Walker story. And if I want people to believe me, I have to figure out how to tell this story. And the only way, I don't know how to do it. I'm trying the best I can.